Hello, it's I, REMHAD. Welcome back. Today, we're going to be doing something a little different from my usual food reviewing videos. Something I want to do passionately. Math. Welcome to the first part of REMHAD Does Math. That's right, REMHAD, me doing math. Today's first episode's topic of the series will be about linear equations and expressions. First of all, what the hell is a linear expression or an equation? What's linear mean? Straight. Linear means a straight line. Either this going just straight like this, or this, or a diagonal line, either vertical, diagonal, or horizontal. What's the distinction though? Well, here's a little tip that you can remember. When you have x is equal to a constant, say 2, x equals 2. On that graph, it's going to have a straight vertical line all the way on the x-axis of 2, because you have 2 on all the inputs for x, but there's no actual thing, so the x is just going to equal 2. So your outputs are going to be all the numbers, and your x out and your inputs are going to be 2. So it's always going to be a straight line through the x-axis going through 2, or whatever constant you set it to be. Same thing with a horizontal. It's going to be with the y. So if you have y equals 2, it's going to go through 2 on the y-axis. Easy, right? I mean, but what about diagonal? How do you explain diagonal? Well, you have to have coefficients on a variable with or without. It doesn't really matter. I mean, okay. All it is a diagonal line, most likely. But, what does that even mean? Well, you have a line, and it could either be steep or not steep, or have no steepness or infinite steepness. But that's just vertical and horizontal, so we already covered that. Okay, so let's say you have 2x, 2 times x, y is equal to 2x, versus y is equal to half of x. How would you graph that? Or how would you visualize it in your head? Well, if you have 2x, it's going to be somewhere around this, right? It's going to be more steep than a regular x would, which has 1 equals 1, 2 equals 2, 3 equals 3. When you have 2x, you're taking 2 times that set of all real numbers. So 2 times 1 is 2. So you have 1. So you have 1 as your input and 2 as your output. Or you have 2 as your input and 4 as your output. And so on. You're just multiplying them by 2. So it's going to be steeper since the change is going to be 2 every time instead of it going up by 1 on the output. When you have a half, you're just halving it. So instead of having 1, you're going to have like a half. And instead of having 2, the output's going to be 1. Okay. But just visually, anything above 1, any diagonal that is steeper than any diagonal that has a slope, we'll get to that in a minute, that has a slope higher than 1, it's going to be steeper. But if it has less than 1, it's going to be the opposite. It's going to be less steep. And you have no steepness and infinite steepness. And again, that's verticality and horizontalness. Okay, cool. Out of the way. What's slope? As I said earlier, what even is slope? Well, slope is that steepness. You can call it steepness, but it's slope. It's the slope of a line, or the steepness of a line. But how would you find the slope of a line? Well, rise over run is how you do that crazy stuff. So, you have a graph. Let's say you have 1 is equal to 2, and 3 is equal to 6. And you want to find the slope of that line. And those are the only 2 points you have. You don't have a visual. I mean, you can draw a line through it, but you don't know the slope still. So that's why you use rise over run. You plot those 2 points, and you can still, you do the line through those points. Because there can only be one line through those 2 points. And you figure out, so rise and run, exactly. What is that? Rise is the distance between 2 points on the y-axis, and on the x-axis is run. So if you have a point on 0, 0 and 0, 2, it's going to have a rise of 2. And then that point is also going to be on, let's say, 0, 1. Well, that's going to be a run of 1. So your rise over 1 is going to be 2, 1. And that's the coordinates. That's going to be a hypothetical right there. So from 1, 2 to 3, 6, you just do the math and you calculate. The run is going to be from 1 to 3. That's going to be 2. And the rise is going to be from 2 to 6. So the rise is going to be 4. So you have that, and it's going to be rise over run. Your rise is 4, your run is 2. Rise over 1, 4 over 2, 2. That's going to be your slope. The slope of that line is 2. Now, let's say you don't have a graph, and you can't graph those 2 points, and you need a way to calculate the slope. Well, there is a formula to calculate slope. It's a little hard when I say it, but you're just going to need to bear with me. I'll explain it all. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. What does that mean? You might be asking, or you're not asking. Doesn't matter. I'm going to explain it anyways. y2, y1, x2, x1. What does that mean at all? Well, you can replace those variables with different variables. Let's say you have the one coordinate point A, comma B, and a second point C, comma D. If you do that with those, and you replace those with x1, comma y1, and x2, comma y2, well then that's the same thing, and you can plug that in. So instead of having D minus B over C minus A, you're going to have y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That is the slope formula. So if we take those 2 points, and let's say we can't graph it, we can visualize it, but we can't graph it on a point. Well, we can't graph it on a graph. How'd you figure it out? Well, you do that formula, y2 minus y1. Well, that's going to be, if you take the 2 coordinate points, you're going to get 3. You're going to get 6. You're going to get 6, and you're going to get 2. 6 minus 2 is 4. 4. I can't do hands right now. I'm sorry. And then you have the second part, x2 minus x1, which is going to be 3 and 1 and that 3 minus 1 is 2. So you're going to have 6 minus 4 over 3 minus 1. 6 minus 2 over 3 minus 1. And you're going to get 2, because 3, that's just going to be 2 over 1, and that's going to be 4 over 2, and that's going to be 2. That is the formula to find the slope. So, example problem. Let's say you have 2 points. I have to use the slope formula for this one. Let's say you have 2 points. 2, 4, and 5, 10. What is going to be the slope of the line that passes through both of those points? I'll give you like 10 seconds. Okay, your time is up. Well, let's do the math. So, you have those 2 points. 2, 4, 5, 10. 10 minus 4 is 6. And 5 minus 2 is 3. What's 6 over 3? 2. The slope of that line is 2. Wow. How exciting. Let's do another example. You have 1, 3 as your first point, and your second point is going to be 6, 18. I'll give you 10 seconds. Okay, your time is up. Let's do the math. So you have 1, 3, and 6, 18. Well, here's how you do it. 18 minus 3, that's going to be 15. 9 minus 1. 6 minus 1, sorry. That's going to be 5. 15 over 5 is going to be 3, and that's the slope of the line. You guys got it? Or should we do one more example problem? Yeah, you guys are doing another example problem. Just real quick. Okay, so you have the points 3 and 12. And you have 5 and 20. What's the slope of the line that passes through both those points? I'll give you 10 seconds, like usual. Okay, your time's up. So what is going to be the slope of that? You're going to have 20 minus 12, and then you're going to have 5 minus 3. Well, you're going to have 20 minus 12, that's going to be 8. That's going to be 8. And then you're going to have 5 minus 3, that's going to be 2. What's 8 over 2? 4. Bam, that's the slope of the line that passes through both those points. Okay, enough about slope. What about the constant? So you have that form, and slope is equal to m. By the way, m is equal to the slope. Okay, so you're going to have mx. M times x, the slope times x, then plus b. B? What the hell is b? What is it? Okay, b is interesting. It's also known as the y-intercept. It's self-explanatory, really. It's the point at which the line intercepts with the y-axis. With a graph, it's really easy. Like, really easy to figure it out. Let's say you have a line, and let's say you know the slope is going to be 3x. Okay? Or it doesn't really matter. Let's just say it's x. It's just x. You have a graph, and it intersects through the line, or through the point 0, 3. Okay? So the y-intercept is going to be just that y value of that point, 3. Another really easy way to figure it out is if you plug in 0 into the equation you have, or the expression you have, you should get a value that is equal to the y-intercept. Because let's say you had 2x plus 3. 2 times 0 is, well, 0. Add 3, you're at 3. That's the y-intercept. Now, there are ways you can solve for it, but we'll get onto that in a different episode, because that's a little complicated right now. Well, no, actually, you're wrong. You are wrong. Well, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. Okay, so there is a way to calculate for the y-intercept, but it takes algebra. Okay, so let's now finally solve a linear equation, or also known as a two-step equation, or a one-step equation. Most of the time, it's going to be 2 steps. Let's say you have 2x minus 5 equals 3. Solve for x. Okay, solve for x. So first, you wanna add the 5. So you wanna add the 5 to both sides. Anything you do to one side, you do to the other. So you have 2x plus 5. 2x minus 5, and you have 3. Well, you want to add 5 so you can get rid of that 5. But then you just have 2x equals 3, and that's a completely different equation than what we had originally. So you have to add 5 to both sides. And now you have 2x equals 8. Wow. Also, any way to, let's say you want to get rid of addition, well, you subtract. Vice versa. Subtraction gets rid of addition, and addition gets rid of subtraction. What about division and multiplication? How do you figure that out? Well, kind of just said it. It's opposites. It's the inverse operations. Inverse is just the same word for opposite, pretty much. So, let's say you want to do 2x equals 8. Well, how do you do that? Well, you could just guess and check. Well, 2 times 3 is 6, but 2 times 4 is 8, so x is equal to 4. That's the answer. But There's I guess, easier way. I mean, you can just divide by 2 on both sides, because you're just dividing by 2 on both sides. So you're gonna have your 2x equals 8 divided by 2, and then the 2x is just 2 times x. So you're really just getting rid of the 2. X is equal to 8 over 2. That's 4. So now you have x is equal to 4. Simple. Let's do another example here. 4x plus 1 is equal to 9. Okay, how did you solve this? First, you have 4x plus 1 equals 9. You have this 1, right? Easiest thing to do, you want to subtract by 1. On both sides, of course, so you have 4x is equal to 8. And you can divide by 4 on both sides. So you have x is equal to 2. And here's a good way to check if your answer is correct. You plug in the answer that you got into the x. So let's see if we're correct. 4x plus 1, which is just 4 times 2 plus 1. 8 plus 1 is 9, and that equals 9. Because of course it does. They're the same number. I mean, why would you think they're not the same number? Are you stupid? Okay, so let's do. Well, I'm going to give you an example to figure out. Okay? Okay? Are you still here? Good. Your example problem is 3x minus 2 is equal to 4. Solve for x. I'll give you some time. You can pause. You can pause and solve it. Okay, so hopefully you solved it and didn't just skip to wait for me to just tell you. So yeah, you 3x minus 2 equals 4. You have to add 2 first. And you get 3x is equal to 6. Divide by 3 on both sides, and x is equal to 2. Wow. You guys want another example? I know you do. Okay, another example is going to be 4x minus 2 is equal to 6. Okay, hopefully you paused again. I didn't really say to pause. I hope that was insinuated. But yeah, 4x minus 2 is equal to 6. You add 2 to both sides first, because of course you do. And there's an explanation now. I'll let you guys know after I get this. So you add 2 both sides. 4x is equal to 8. Divide by 4 on both sides. X is equal to 2. Okay. Why do you add first, but you don't divide first? Well, you guys are the order of operations, parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. All that jazz. Well, reverse it, and that's how you solve. So to simplify, or to reduce the simplest terms, you do PEMDAS. But to solve for an equation, you do SADMEP. You just reverse the order of operations. So you start with addition and subtraction, then you do multiplication and division, and then you do parentheses and exponents. Or you do exponents, and then you do parentheses. That's how you solve it. That's the order. It's the other order of operations. The order of operations for solving. That's not probably an official term, but that's what I want to call it. So now that you know that, what else is there to know? Well, you know how I just said there's 2x plus 3 is just an expression earlier in the video? Well, y is equal to 2x plus 3 is how you should be writing it when graphing or doing anything with it as an actual function. That's right, function. A function is when you have a variable is equal to another set of variables, as in y equals 2x plus 3. That's a function. Or, more precisely, y is the same thing as f of x, or f and then in parentheses x. That just means function of. That's the notation for function of. That's a good thing to know. So, the function of x is equal to x plus 3, let's say. So what's the function of 5? What's the function of 5? Or simply put, it's just a one-step equation. Really, you can just replace that function of 5 with 5. 5 is equal to x plus 3? That's not right. That's not right. That's not how you do it. Because that's just wrong. That's what you might think you have to do. But you're wrong! What you do is you plug 5 into x. So the function of 5 when x is plus 3 is the function is equal to 8. You can also just say y is equal to x plus 3. Solve for y when oh my god. Solve for y when x is 5. That's the same thing, essentially. So, yeah, that's a function, which means there are 3 different types. There are 3! There's 3 of them! There's 3 different types of, like, number things. Ways to write the numbers. You have an equation, which is something equal to another thing. Example, 2x plus 3 equals 5. That's an equation. Next, you have an expression, which is just 2x plus 3. Nothing else to it. It's just that one set. And then you have a function, which is the function of x is equal to 2x plus 3. Now, there's one more thing I have to tell you. I have to tell you. I kind of forgot to mention it earlier. But, how would you solve for the y-intercept using just the equation you have? Let's say you have 3x plus b. You can't do anything with that. So, but then, here's what you really do, okay? You have to have it equal to something. You have to have a y value. And you have to have a slope. That's what you have to do. And you also have to have an x value. Yeah. You have to have the equation without the b. And you have to have a pair of coordinates. And that's it. So you have the pair 2, 3, or 2, 3. And you have the equation 2x plus b. And you need to solve for b. So you plug in that 2 and that 3 into the y equals 2x plus b. And you plug that in. So you have 3 is equal to 4 plus b. So you subtract 4 on both sides to isolate the b, or the y-intercept, and you get negative 1 is equal to b. Wow. So let's do a little example, and then we'll do the review of what I've taught you. So, first, here's your example. You want to solve for b when your pair of coordinates is 1, 3. 1, 3. And your equation is 3x minus 1. I'm stupid. Oh my god. Okay, not that equation. Don't use that equation. Let's just redo that. You have 3x. Okay, you want to solve with the points 1, 3 and the equation 3x plus b. Solve for the y-intercept. I'll give you some time, pause, and solve. Hopefully you solved it. If you didn't, you suck. You have that 1, 3, you put it in. 3 is equal to 3 plus b. Well, you subtract, and wow, 0 is equal to b. Since you subtract on both sides, and you get 0 is equal to b. So that is how you solve for y-intercept for now. We'll get on to a different way later. So that was linear equations. That's pretty cool, actually. Let's do a little review real quick before I end this off, okay? So let's go back. Slope. How would you solve for slope again? Do you remember? It's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Or in simple terms, rise over run. So, let's say you have 2 points. You have 5, 6. And you have 10, 11. Solve for the slope. I'll give you 10 seconds. Okay, that was 10 seconds. Let's solve it. So you have 10, 11, and 5, 6. When you do the maths, 11 minus 6. Charge just went by. Sorry. So you have 11 minus 6 over 10 minus 5. That's just 1 over 1. That's just 1. The slope of that line will be 1. It's weird because now you can solve for the y-intercept. Yeah. This is how you do it. So you want to solve for the y-intercept now. So now you know it's just going to be x plus b. Plug in one of your points, either 10, 11, or 5, 6. You can choose whichever. It doesn't matter. It will get the same thing. Just pause and solve it. Okay, so hopefully you solved it. Now let me solve it. Okay, so let's just do 5, 6 for simplicity's sake. You have the x plus b. Your x is going to be 5, and 6 is going to be your y-intercept. So you're going to have, 6, not y-intercept. I'm stupid. It's just going to be your y. So you have 5 plus b equals 6. Subtract the 5, and you get the b, or the y-intercept, is equal to 1. Wow. Now that's pretty cool. Last thing of review, let's do a little two-step equation problem of practice, and that'll be the end of the first episode. It's gonna be pretty tricky, this one. This one's gonna be pretty tricky. Okay. 1/2 of x, or 1/2 x plus 3 is equal to 7. Yeah. 1/2? How do you do a half? Well, it's simple. It's just technically dividing, because you're just gonna have x over 2 plus 3. Either way, you're still gonna multiply by 2, because you're trying to make that 1. So you have to multiply it by 2 on both sides, and you get x. No, you don't do that first, but that's how you do it. First, subtract the 3 from 7 and 3, so you get half of x is equal to 4. Multiply by 2, and x is going to be equal to 8. And you can check it. Half of x plus 3, well, half of 8 plus 3 is just going to be 4 plus 3. That's 7, which is equal to 7. Because of course it is. So, that was linear equations. Hopefully you watched and you looked around and you listened and you retained the information for later. Yeah. That was REMHAD Does Math. Thanks for watching the first episode. The next episode will be something math related as well, because it's REMHAD Does Math. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you want to see more math, and also food reviewing and other random stuff. It doesn't matter. I do a bunch of stuff now. I'm a content creator. Thank you for watching. Thank you. Yeah.